Hey, what's up everybody? This is Muse24, and today I'm going to take a look at the War of Kings paperback collection here. This is a limited series, or event series rather, that happens sort of in the middle of the 2008 Guardians of the Galaxy run. At the end of the first half sort of alludes to this starting up, and they mention that there's a War of Kings coming and that they're going to clash and all that. This primarily deals, however, with the Inhumans, as well as the Shi'ar and the Kree, and then Vulcan, who is sort of he's the mad brother of Cyclops and Havoc, but he's sort of in charge of the Shi'ar Empire at that point in time, or more specifically the Shi'ar like higher ups. They're like sort of emperor role, and then he has like certain loyal bodyguards, I guess you'd say, sort of like a royal guard, Gladiator being part of that. So the Inhumans, after their huge Inhumans spectacle from the Inhumans limited series that I reviewed before on Earth, end up going into space, and they basically deem that after the Skrull invasion from the Secret Invasion arc, that they need to take their Terrigen Mists and their sort of role as these guinea pigs of the Kree, but also sort of higher beings. They, obviously they view themselves as being noble and sort of this realm of being above other supers in a certain degree. They need to take that into space and return to where they came from, which is, of course, the Kree homeworld and the Kree home system. So what ends up happening is they sort of make this big, grandiose entrance, and Ronan realizes that if they go to war with the Inhumans, it's not going to benefit either of them. And so he pledges allegiance to the Inhumans because he sees it as a way to further the Kree's role in the galaxy. Because at that point, they're sort of at a genetic standstill, and the Kree are not going to advance any further if they don't find some way to jumpstart their genetic pool and their sort of evolutionary process. So Ronan sees this as a great opportunity. It's going to benefit both of us because they want to push forth into new territory, and obviously if we go to war with each other, it's not going to help anybody. What ends up happening then is that Vulcan wants to sort of play some political cards and rise up even further in the galactic ranks and sort of take control of as much as he can because he's power hungry and he is ruthless in that sense, and ends up sort of crashing the wedding of Crystal and Ronan. They are being married not so much for romantic purposes, more for a political statement. And the Inhumans have to find as many ways as possible to use it to their benefit. So they start doing things like broadcasting, showing of Crystal, taking pity on some of the wounded and the sick and all that. And during Vulcan's attempt to go to war with all these other factions, we sort of see that not all of his loyal followers have as much faith in him, even though it's sort of a tradition of he's supposed to be the person in this position, we're supposed to always trust him no matter what. There's sort of a split on who's really still loyal to him, and the understanding of this system that's been in place for many, many years, and other people who are thinking more progressively, thinking this is probably not the best idea, it's not going to benefit the galaxy in the long run. The Guardians do show up a little bit, but it's primarily about the Inhumans and the Shi'ar and Vulcan, and sort of the smaller conflict that they have compared to the bigger scope of things in both Guardians of the Galaxy and the Thanos Imperative, which will come later on. Now, this does set up for both of those, and it's really cool. And I like the fact that we have the storyline of the Inhumans, first of all, because I have yet to read a single Inhuman story that is bad. All of them have been really good. And also we get to see more of Gladiator. And I like how complex and more human of a character he is in this story than in something like the Guardians of the Galaxy Cross X-Men, where they put Jean Grey on trial for something she didn't actually commit yet because she time traveled from the past, and it was sort of this whole big fanfare thing that boiled down to a whole lot of nothing. And he was a very simple-minded character in that storyline, I felt. Whereas in this, we get to see his personal reasons for defending Vulcan, and then later on why he sort of splits from Vulcan's guard and does what he believes is right. And it was very, very cool, I think, for a series that, well, obviously a limited run, is not nearly as long as a lot of the other event stuff, and that's sort of because in between quill, if you will, between the first part of the Guardians of the Galaxy stuff and the second part, as well as an in-between quill for the Earth-based Inhuman stuff and the eventual role that they play in the Thanos Imperative. So the artwork on this is pretty typical of the mid to late 2000s Cosmic Marvel stuff. Very similar to the Guardians of the Galaxy artwork, as well as the Thanos Imperative and everything else that was kind of running at that time. A little bit more rounded and cartoony character models than I think we had in Inhumans, but then this was sort of after the Marvel Knights phase, and so I guess they were going more for a I guess sort of bombastic fanfare with the cosmic stuff, but also making it more grounded and easy to follow for new readers, as well as obviously paying tribute to some of the old fan favorites. Even though Havoc is in this, and there are some other characters from other storylines, it's still primarily about the Cosmic Marvel stuff, and it doesn't really delve too deep into, the history that he has with Vulcan, or their X-Men roots, or any of that. It's more so about, like I said, the Inhumans, the Shi'ar, the Kree to a little bit lesser degree, and then, Vulcan as a character. Black Bolt's a lot of fun. The Medusa's a lot of fun. Lockjaw and Crystal both play important roles in this thing, and I wish we would have actually seen more of Ronan in action, because he does play a big part in this story, but he doesn't actually take to the fight hardly at all. And that's something I was kind of disappointed in, because I've really enjoyed Ronan as a character in every other sort of spacey Marvel thing that I've read. The end does very much set up for Thanos Imperative sort of a long ways out, because obviously we had the whole second half of the Guardians run to get through. But then there's sort of a Marvel Spotlight thing in the back here, like we have with a bunch of the other Cosmic Marvel stuff, actually. Sort of talking about the chronology of everything, who the Guardians are, sort of the setup for War of Kings, what sort of direction they were taking with the Cosmic Marvel stuff at the time, and what they wanted to do with sort of reinventing all these old characters or adding new ones entirely. Much like they did with the Inhumans run, sort of an old property that hadn't gotten that much in the way of exposure or their own proper series, so they brought it back and totally reinvented it for the sake of a new, younger generation. We have some talks with like the artists and the writers, which is pretty cool. A bunch of interviews here in the back, and so it's one of those collections where if you like all that bonus content, just beyond the alternate cover art and all that, if you want a lot of interviews and sort of discourse on the inspiration for the series and where they were hoping to head with it and all that, this is a great collection for that, I think. But as the story as a whole, I think was really well done. I wasn't expecting anything super impressive out of this, and I think that's why it kind of impressed me more. It's interesting because I did not expect the Inhumans to be as big of players in this as they were, and I expected sort of the Guardians to be more so, because that was the big thing at the time. So I'm glad that they went sort of in a different direction, did something that was not expected, at least for me, and probably not expected from a lot of people who were reading the Marvel Cosmic stuff at the time, and just sort of did their own thing, and I think that worked out really well for them. I don't know that I enjoyed this as much as Thanos Imperative, but I do think it's a more serious and focused story than Thanos Imperative, whereas that's sort of, like I said, an inversion of Civil War, whereas things just escalate more and more to the point where we have Galactus fighting these Cancerverse foes, and we have, Nova and Star-Lord and the Guardians, and Beta Ray Bill and Silver Surfer all going into the Cancerverse fault and fighting at these forces of this twisted version of Adam Magus. I think it's really cool that, not the Magus, sorry, it's Captain Marvel. That's who it was. They were fighting the Cancerverse. But anyways, that we have sort of this, this strong bridge of events, if you will. That said, it does stand pretty well on its own, but I think I did appreciate it more because I had read Inhumans and I had read the first half of Guardians, so I kind of knew what all this was setting up for, and I like the way that it similarly cuts off as a entry for the next set of events. So, again, if you like Cosmic Spacey Marvel stuff, if you like the Inhumans, or if you just want to read something different about like the Kree and the Shi'ar, definitely give this a shot. It's a lot of fun. as I mentioned, does require a little bit more context than some of the other stuff that I've recommended on here before, but I still really enjoyed it, and that's pretty much it for this review. So with that, I will see you guys next time.